What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 507 of Get Paid for Your Pad. We are your hosts, Jesper Rivers and Eric Miller. And today we have a lot of exciting stuff to share with you. We have a new training on virtual assistants, how to hire, train, retain the perfect short-term rental virtual assistant that we're throwing on this Monday at 1 p.m. PST that you can join absolutely for free. So we're going to dive into that. Eric, what's up, man? Your studio is looking better every single week.
Yeah, man. We've been working on this guy. We have a whole bunch of new tools, new toys, new cameras, all kinds of stuff. So we are having fun. And yeah, this is version 3 of the studio. We got some other stuff going on here, but we're trying to make our YouTube channel and these podcasts just a little bit more visually appealing. So yeah, man, I'm having a lot of fun with this. Got our cameras, we have some additional mic set up. We have it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna be pumping out quite a bit of content from the studio.
Yeah, this is exciting, man. And I might actually be over there in a couple months because my work visa got approved.
That's right, man. That's right.
That's been so excited about this.
That's been a big project in the making, right? To get approved for that.
A year and a half. I've been working on that for a year and a half. You know,
unreal.
It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, we got the good news. We got a lot of good news, actually. You guys are coming over to Panama next week. It's a lot to celebrate.
I'm pumped about that. I've never been to Panama. But yeah, we're excited. We're gonna be heading out Tuesday, gonna be doing our company offsite, planning out Q4, wrapping up Q3, and really just kind of building the vision of what we're gonna be accomplishing over the next few months.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. First time for you. Our CEO Aaron is coming over as well, so it'll be a lot of fun here.
That's right.
But let's talk about. We have so much to talk about, but let's talk about virtual assistants, right? As because I'm pumped about this training that we're putting on Monday.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, like, when did you hire your first virtual assistant?
Oh man, that's probably one of the first things I ever did in business was hire a VA. I read, I think for many people, reading 4-Hour Workweek kind of opened up your eyes on what was possible with VAs. But it took many years, man. I hired my first virtual assistant back in, man, I don't even know what year it was. I was like 19 years old. 19, 20 years old, to support me on like emails and stuff like that. But it took many years to figure out how to hire the right virtual assistants, how to set them up for success in their roles, how to train them for them to grow and take on more responsibilities, and eventually how to build them into the culture of our company so they become team members and not individuals that are supporting us, but not really connected with us on a day-to-day. It took a long time to do that. And obviously now, because we're so deep in the short-term rental space, virtual assistants is such a big conversation that people have all the time. And when we talk to the students, that different hosts from around the world that apply for Legends X, that's one of the things that they are applying for, is that they want to learn how to correctly hire and scale with virtual assistants. We have an entire week on training our students on that. So it's really important. But what we see over and over and over again are hosts that are hiring virtual assistants. It's not hard to hire VAs. It's hard to hire the right VA, train them, set them up for success, and then retain them in the company, right? So we see it a lot. Like, there's YouTube and courses and all this stuff talking about, oh yeah, start an Airbnb business, hire a VA, and then you never have to send a message again, right? To your guests or whatever it is, which is, I believe that in the beginning of my business, but now it's like, you and I dialed in, and the team dialed in so much on how to hire the right people in the VA positions. And it's something that I get asked every single day when we're on the calls with the students that are applying for Legends X. So that's why I brought it to you guys. Like, hey, let's just do a high level training on how can hosts really hire the best virtual assistants to support them to scale their business, right? Because the moment that they do that, And once we show them in this training, man, like, how to get the low level tasks that are stealing their energy, and pass it on to somebody who actually has, that lights them up doing those tasks. What we see in in their businesses are just truly incredible. So I'm excited. So when are we're doing this on Monday, right?
Yes, this Monday
Monday.
yeah, that's right.
Monday. What time are we doing it?
September 19th, Monday, September 19th at 1 p.m. PST.
Boom. How can people find the URL? How can they sign up for that?
Yeah, it's very easy. Overnightsuccess.io/VA. You just fill in your name, fill in your email, and you get free access. We'll send you all the information, the links, all of that.
Boom. Love it. Yeah.
Boom.
So I'm excited to do that. What about you, man? What was your first introduction to virtual assistants?
Yeah, it's funny, man, because all the mistakes that we see hosts make, that leads to them not having a positive experience with the virtual assistants, because that's the feedback that we get often from our students. They're like, "Oh, I tried VAs, didn't work. Doesn't work for me." I had the same experience. Like when I hired my first VA, it was actually when I started my Airbnb business, back in Amsterdam, because I was traveling. So back then we didn't have Wi-Fi. There was Wi-Fi, but not everywhere. So
Right.
the first problem that I ran into was like, okay, I don't have internet. Like, how do I send messages to my Airbnb guests? So I was kind of forced to hire a virtual assistant to do that for me. But yeah, I'd make all the common mistakes, of like just going to Upwork, just typing in virtual assistant, a bunch of profiles show up. You kind of go through the profiles, choose one person, and then jump on a call with them and say, all right, well, you're hired. And then you're kind of expecting that this person is going to take over all these tasks, right? But then the issues that you run into is like, okay, well, I need to train this person, because how else are they going to know what to do? We need to have like a training. We have to manage that person. And so what happens is like I wasn't prepared for that at all. Right. So then what happens is like they don't really know what to do. I get frustrated, and then the conclusion is like, okay, this person doesn't work out. Let's find another one. And you go through the
Yeah.
process again, right?
Yeah.
And then again, you do the same stuff, and then you just at some point you come to the conclusion, okay, the virtual assistant doesn't work for me. So that was my first experience as well. But that's after going through that cycle a couple of times, I realized like, okay, it's not the virtual assistant that's the challenge. It's me, right? I'm not prepared. I'm not giving them the right training. I don't have any systems to support them and set them up for success, right? So that's how I learned of like, okay, next time I'm hiring somebody, I'm gonna be really prepared. Essentially everything that we're teaching in Legends X now, of having training systems and everything in place to really set them up for success. Because that's what one thing that I learned from Rebecca, who's one of our coaches now on the program, is she teaches the virtual assistant module in Legends X. She once told me, your VA is as good as your systems. And that just summarizes it in my perspective. So yeah, this is why we're putting on this training, right? Because we see the power. The power is incredible, right? Like to be able to hire somebody in a low cost country, very affordable, to take over like so much of the business, right? Because there's so much that can be done remotely. And we see it in our students. Like we have students going on holiday for the first time in years. We have students like who are now completely focused on talking to investors and business owners, property owners to partner with, and really focusing on growing the business because their VAs are doing all the work. And we get this feedback all the time. And so we see the power, but we also see the struggle that most hosts have, right? Because they don't have the right guidance in place to successfully hire and train and retain the virtual assistant.
Yeah. And I see this is something that we hear quite a bit in the early stages, is the what you just said. Like we've hired VAs, but they just don't do the work the way that I want them to do. They don't they don't really understand my business. How can someone from across the world truly understand my business and do the things that I do that make it special, right? And this is kind of when you go back and focus on like the hectic coast, the mindset of like, I have to micromanage everything. That's where those challenges come from. But dude, like regardless of who I'm speaking to, if they have one unit, we just spoke to somebody who enrolled in the next Legends X class in October, who has 40 listings. And he's like, hey, so tell me about this whole virtual assistant thing. Like, how do I find somebody? Do I just go to Upwork? And I'm like, okay, there's an entire process on how to find, train, retain this person and bring them into your team. The other thing too is like I see a lot of people talking about virtual assistants as if they're like machines and not actual real human beings, right? And it's like, like just saying like VA, and they don't even speak to their VAs, their virtual assistants through, with their names. They just call them VAs, right? So, and like that's a big thing that you and I have changed within Free Wild is like these are our team members. They're playing big roles within our company. Yeah, it's more cost effective because our dollar currency is buys more, power in their country, right? We have a bigger, stronger currency. So like we have the ability to bring on someone who's really talented, educated, familiar with the industry, and give them big roles to play, and it's not a huge cost to us, right? At the end of the day, which is amazing. So that's something I'm really excited about, just kind of training people on like 3 easy steps to go through and bring on the right team members to support them. And we're going to walk everybody through the task delegation system, and love to talk about that here in a second. But the biggest thing is like, how do we get the lowest level tasks off our desk that are stealing energy from us, right? Like I hear it all the time. Like people are talking about when they apply for Legends X, I'm like, what is the main reason why you need our help? Well, systems to do what? Solve what problems? What don't you want to do in your business? I don't want to deal with emails anymore. I don't want to deal with, the 80% of guest messages that, are just repeating over and over. I'll deal with the guest issues, but the typical questions and stuff like that, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't want to deal with scheduling, cleaning, and like all these things that are important to the process of running a professional short-term rental business can be trained. We can hire virtual assistants to truly take over and run that as good or better than us at those that task. And what we find is like once we help our students do that, they're doing, to your point, like Lisa was it Lisa who took the vacation? Yeah. First vacation in how many years?
5 years.
5 years. Crazy, right? And then we see other people that now have the time to go out and find more properties and create more experiences, making more money, right? So I just find that's what lights me up, and that's the goal of this training on Monday.
Yeah.
Dude, what I would love for you to share. We went through this process when we launched when we launched Free Wild, and we hired our team member May from the Philippines. She lives in the Philippines. And she works for us full time in Free Wild, running multiple different things within our company. I know you went through that process 100%, right? So what did you learn through that process of hiring May, bringing her on, now training her and having her take over the tasks that she's running?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I woke up this morning and I looked at my phone, and I looked at the Airbnb. I saw there was an Airbnb notification, and there's nothing that makes me happier than opening up the Airbnb app and seeing in the middle of the night, for us, that May's responding to our guests, right? It just feels so good to see that that's happening, and I don't have to get involved, right? It's not just this time that you save, but it's also the mental space. Like I don't have to worry about it, right?
Right.
So it feels amazing to have that in place. But yeah, what I learned through that process, it's interesting. Like it's always when you think of like the process of you're running into a challenge, you want a solution, we tend to dive straight to what we think is going to solve the problem, right? Which in the virtual assistant case is like just finding that person and hiring them as soon as possible. But the process just starts so much more. There's so much that you have to do first before you even get to that spot. And that's the biggest thing I learned through this process is using our task delegation system to, first of all, like what are we doing on a daily basis that we want to delegate? we have to get really clear on what do we actually want to delegate. So we first have to start monitoring our days and really like documenting every single task that we do in our business. Secondly, we have to ask ourselves, is this something that I want to delegate or not? Right? Is this something that I enjoy doing? Is it something that gives me energy, or is it something that doesn't give me energy and I want to outsource it? Number three is we also have to set priorities, because the other thing I learned is that you cannot give them everything at once. You have to build it up slowly. You have to take it step by step. Start with one task, then the next one, and slowly over time you're building up this entire this role essentially, right? So you have to prioritize too and think like, what do I want to get rid of my plate first? Then once you have that list of tasks, then you have to start preparing first you have to create the job scorecard, right? The description, all right? To have the job description so you can actually find the right person. And we recommend a service that's called Virtual Staff Finder, so that we don't have to go in and go through all these different profiles and put in all that work to find the right person. But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest learning lesson, man, is being prepared, like knowing what you want to outsource, having the training, having the system, the tasks ready for when that person joins. You're fully prepared to take them on.
Yeah. So there was a lot in there. Let's unpack some of that stuff, right? So the first side is, and this is what we're going to be going through in depth on the training on Monday, right? So let's break that down a little bit. The first step is where to go to locate virtual assistants that are experienced in short-term rentals. So one thing that I see quite a bit is, and I ran into this personally for many years in my short-term rental business, is in the early stages, I wanted to hire a virtual assistant that can handle all my guest communication while I was sleeping. That was the first thing. It's like, hey, I don't want to be dealing with issues and like communication from like 6 to 6, right? I need some time off, right? So that was the first thing I wanted to hire. And when you put a description together and you just post it up on like Upwork and other sites like that, you're kind of just throwing it out to the world. And anyone who sees like, oh, guest messaging and like things like that, you're getting all different types of people that are applying for it. They may not be 100% familiar with the industry, or they have the skill sets 100% to take on that role, right? So I was hiring people from all different types of industries and experience until I found one point that you mentioned, and they're an exclusive partner of ours for the Legends X program. They're called Virtual Staff Finders. Until we found that company, the owner of that company used to live in San Diego. I met him at a networking dinner. He was telling me about this vision and what he's building and what he has in the Philippines. And now it's such a massive company. I believe he lives there full time now, which is pretty cool. But he has a massive database of trained and qualified virtual assistants, right? So by the way, if anyone who's listening, you guys are looking to hire somebody, you could check them out at overnightsuccess.io/VSF. VSF, Virtual Staff Finder. So we have a little that'll redirect to their website, so you'll be able to see that. But that's who we use to find. That's how we found May. That's how we're using that to find our virtual assistants. What they do is they go out. We give them a description and a job scorecard. We'll break that down here in a second, of who we're looking for, the type of experience that they have, the roles that they're going to be doing, our expectations, our core values, the whole thing. They go out, they interview a ton of different people, and they bring us what we call Stravas, right? Short-term rental virtual assistants. Short-term rental virtual assistants. These are people that have worked for other short-term rental companies in the past, or have worked directly for Airbnb in the Philippines. There's a huge call center in the Philippines for Airbnb. So we're hiring people directly from. So May, you could talk about that a little bit. May had some experience with Airbnb, right? She was a customer service rep.
She was a case manager. So she understands the guest side, but she also understands, the Airbnb customer service side.
Right. And dude, it's awesome, man. To your point, last night I just sat down with dinner with Samantha for dinner, and the Airbnb app pings and goes off, and I look at it and I see that someone sent a photo, an image, and that's typically never really a good sign on the Airbnb app, right? And when someone's sending you a photo, it's usually a photo of something that's wrong. And I'm like, all right, let me take a breath. Let me not react to this thing. I'm like, okay, hold on. We're going to have a customer service issue. There's the opportunity to grow, blah, blah, blah. I opened up that app and it's May. One of our guests asked, is there a coffee machine? What kind of coffee machine is it? And she found a photo of it and sent a photo to them. And the guests were super happy. They're like, awesome, sweet. We'll bring up, blah, blah, blah type of coffee. But just that little thing of her knowing to like, we didn't train her to do that, right? To find that picture and send that photo. I thought that was absolutely amazing. Right.
Yeah.
So it brings like to see that, you have somebody who understands the guest side. She understands what we're looking for to solve problems. She's taken initiative and we didn't have to do anything. And there I'm looking at it, I'm like, awesome. She's got it. Put the phone down, enjoy dinner, right? That's the beauty of a trained short-term rental virtual assistant. And listen, that may be in our systems already. If it's not, we're going to build that in, right? For every single one of those units and continue to scale that role, right? So as we grow FreeWild, we're bringing on more team members that live in the Philippines that are trained as virtual assistants in the short-term rental space. We don't have to react anymore to those messages. We don't have to react to those challenges. So when we choose to step into customer service or have to step into customer service, we're already supported in that role. So I thought it was awesome, man. I think virtual assistants is the fastest way to get your time out of your business so we can start focusing on how to work on it, right? The biggest thing that we teach in Legends X.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, by the way, on the photos, like that's that's a quick little tip. Like we had our staff, our on the ground staff actually take very detailed pictures of every single item that's in the house. And that's something that I recommend to everybody, because you have to understand the virtual assistants never been in your units, right? So it's really important to set them up for success and give them the information that they need. And, pictures and videos are really the best way to understand a property outside of like being there yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the detailed photos like that is huge. Obviously a walkthrough video, multiple walkthrough videos of the property from different perspectives so they can get used to the property, the surrounding areas. We trained her a little bit on what Idlewild is about, the local town, the whole thing. So she has a pretty good understanding of it. I know Rebecca and Erica, they they of course teach the whole week on virtual assistants in Legends X. They got to a point where I believe they had 9 virtual assistants for their short-term rental business. Was it 9?
Yeah, it was somewhere around that
Something
number,
like that.
like 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Yeah, and they considered, that their team, which they are. May is a team member of ours, right? So they would fly out once a year to the Philippines and put on and meet all of their virtual staff, right? And build that culture. That's something that I'm learning now, right? Of like, it's not necessarily we're hiring just on the skill set. We're hiring to make sure it's a good culture fit first. And that these individuals can grow within their roles, and then we're helping on the skill set, because skill sets can be learned and sharpened and all of that, right? But if there's a miscommunication on the culture fit, it's not going to fit well. It's not going to last.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, the personality, the character, those are things that are harder to change. Like you can teach if you have the correct systems in place. And that's really like where the mindset has to be when it comes to virtual assistants, right? You really have to give them a system and ask yourself, like, if I would give this system to 10 different people that have no knowledge or skill set in our space, would they all be able to use that system and all get the same result? Right. If the answer is yes, then you have a good system. Right. So that's the mindset that we have to have with our virtual assistants, in my opinion, is if something doesn't go the way you want it to, do not blame the virtual assistant. Go to your system and ask yourself that question. If I give this system to 10 different people who have no knowledge or skills, will they be able to get the result that I want every single time? If the answer is not yes, then you have to improve your system, and you have to take ownership, as a leader.
Hey, I tell you that, like, that's one thing that I hear often, man, from the hosts that are applying is that's one of the questions, like, who is on your team? Who is supporting you? It's usually I got cleaners, I have maintenance people, and have some support here and there. Well, do you have virtual assistants? Do you have people supporting you on the tasks that you don't necessarily need to do that are important to your business? And a lot of times it's like, yeah, I've tried virtual assistants, but the people never do what I want them to do. They can't do it the way that I can do it. And then I asked them, I'm like, what kind of training did you have in place? Well, I don't have the time to create the training, Eric. I have my time, it's in the business. I'm working all the time. I don't have time to sit down and create training. Right. And who's going to go through that anyway? I hear that often. For us, part of our culture and our companies is systems equals freedom. So as we're doing something, we're creating the system around doing it, right? So the next time you're responding to that message, you're writing down the repeatable process that you have in that response, and you're recording a quick, we're probably keeping Loom in business right now, the amount of Looms that we create, right? Like, we create a Loom video walking through step by step what we did. And you may not have the full system built, but at least as you're taking the actions, you track it, you develop that out. So when you bring somebody on, you have the steps there that you can give them, and you'll define and build those systems over time. Right.
Yeah.
But the one thing I want to give advice on, and this is something that we're going to go deep into on the training on Monday, is don't wait for the perfect time to build systems and hire people for your company. Like, there's never a good time. It's always going to be, busy. And like the more that you grow, the more responsibilities that you have. So there's never going to be open time to just sit down and do it. You got to create that space, right? Just like how we created no meeting Wednesdays. We focus on one thing to get done on Wednesdays, right? And that's the higher end stuff. But even if you don't have that, just carving out some time throughout the day just to record your processes on Loom and go back and document what you did. That's a system. That's training, right? We're going to talk about this on the training, is like, it's not just necessarily giving tasks. It's how we bring our virtual assistants into the team, our new team members into the team, onboarding them into our culture of the company. How do we communicate with each other? How do we, make decisions within the company? Who are we? Who do we serve? Why do we serve them? Right. The whole thing of what we teach in the VOS, like, we're going to onboard them into that process and then slowly start giving them tasks to take on, and track what they're doing, give them feedback, grow that role, grow those tasks, to eventually we could just continue to toss tasks at them that they understand how we expect them to do it. Right. Yeah. A lot of people just like hire a VA, and they're just like, all right, do all this stuff. And there's no real training, there's no real communication, there's no real feedback or improvements on how they're supposed to do it. Yeah. And they drop the ball on it, they get upset, they fire them, and they end up doing the task again themselves, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, like, when I was interviewing the free virtual assistants that were presented to us by Virtual Staff Finder, two of them actually told me that they recently left a company, a short-term rental company. And so I was curious, like, why did you leave? And guess what? In both cases, it was they didn't feel part of the team. They didn't feel appreciated, right? Because so they felt exactly what you were referring to earlier. They felt like they were being treated as some robot that we just throw a bunch of stuff at, and we don't have to communicate, we don't have to appreciate. So that's a really important point of, like, we have to, and I think this is the book that we're reading, the 15 Commitments of Leadership. I think it's in there, or it's like the Scaling Up book that we're reading, one of the two.
We're reading a lot at the same time.
Yeah. There's a lesson in there that says, for every time you give constructive feedback, give appreciation 3 times. Right. That's how you help people feel good about themselves. Right.
That's in both books. That's in both books. The one that you liked, that you brought up on our book club, was from the 15 Conscious Laws of Leadership. Is that the title? Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. 15, Aaron, what is it? 15 commitments of conscious
Conscious
leadership. Thank you,
leadership.
Aaron.
Yes.
Aaron's going to be our new Jamie for this podcast. He's just going to, every time we do a podcast, he's going to be sitting off to the left and doing some Google stuff and telling us where we need to improve, all that stuff. Yeah, in that book, what you liked about it, they talked about for every was it for every
constructive
repeat what you
feedback.
just said? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For every time you give constructive feedback, you should give 3 times as much appreciation.
and that's for team members. And then how much is it for spouses? It's like 7 times.
Oh yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I think it was like like 5 times or 10 times or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It was like a dramatically larger number for spouses.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like this is stuff that we preach over and over again. It's like we're building to really grow a real short-term rental business that is profitable, that is not hectic, to be in the rising star or the legend status of running a short-term rental business. You have to build culture, you have to build a vision, you have to build a team. It's not just, we're not just bringing robots on, we're bringing human beings into this. And even though they're maybe in the Philippines on the other side of the planet that you may or may have never been to or may never go to, they're still humans and they got the same type of lifestyles, that we families, and they have interests, the whole thing. We have to treat them as actual team members and support them in that way and give them feedback, give them support, set them up for success, and then celebrate when they do succeed. Right.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if we're paying them $8 an hour, right? Does not matter. Right. We have to treat them as real team members. So, and we're going to go into that obviously on the Monday training of, not only how to find the right qualified short-term rental virtual assistants, but how to onboard them into your company, into your culture, how to set them up, how to retain them as a real team member. So we're not running into those issues where it's like, hey, we've had some team members before we learned all this. We've had in the early stages of overnight success, we've had some virtual assistants that just like, they were exciting in the beginning, but then started dropping the ball. We had no idea how to communicate. They were a challenge for us. And then they eventually just quit or we fired them. Right. So we're speaking from a place of experience on this. And now, I'm not saying that we have all our stuff, it's perfect, but it's working right now.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to share it with everybody.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've learned this the hard way, right? And that's the best way to learn. It's just making the mistakes first, figuring out the challenge. Because at the time we were kind of blaming it on them. And you remember,
Yes.
like we were thinking,
Always
yeah,
happens.
well, these are not the right people for us. And then looking back now, I'm like, wow, like it was our responsibility. We didn't set them up for success, for sure.
Always.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we're going to go into in the training. There's, a lot more than we can cover on this podcast. But I would just say, like, anybody who's listening now, if you're interested in hiring a virtual assistant in the future, or if you already have a virtual assistant, we're going to give you, because there's a lot of stuff that we're going to give you that you'll be able to use and implement, even if you already hired your VA, right?
Yep.
So go ahead, overnightsuccess.io/VA. And it's going to be fun. Like, we got a lot of good feedback on our last training because we kind of switched up a little bit on how we are doing these trainings. We're doing it more interactive, more engagement. It's more fun. It's not this typical webinar where someone is just talking at everybody, right? We're really trying to connect and engage with everyone. We usually have a couple hundred people on the call, which is super cool, which is super exciting. So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to, we kind of put this together in the last couple of weeks. Again, this is Monday, September 19th at 1 p.m. PST. It's good. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite subjects.
That's right, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I think too, like we've gotten really good at helping people, like training people and helping them take action and getting a result as fast as possible. Right. So that's what this is about. We're actually going to be giving you guys like our actual systems that we're using to hire, to delegate, to track the whole thing with our virtual staff. So you guys are going to actually lead with the systems that we're using. So yeah, that's it, guys. Go to overnightsuccess.io/VA, sign up for that, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Awesome, dude. Boom. Any final Final words.
One word close. One word close.
One word close.
Freedom.
Opportunity. Boom.
Boom. Freedom and opportunity. I love it. By the way, that's something that we do on our leadership calls. Everybody is after spending an hour and a half together on the leadership team, we wrap it up with one word close for the meeting. So solid podcast, man. I'm excited for Monday.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Have an amazing weekend. Don't forget to sign up. Again, Monday, 1 p.m. PST. That's 4 p.m. EST. That's when we kick off. So be there 5 minutes in advance. It's going to take about an hour and a half-ish. It's going to be fun. Overnightsuccess.io/VA. And we'll see you on Monday.